Last week, it was announced that Stephen Colbert's late night show will be canceled next year. The company citing financial reasons, saying that his show was losing him $40 million annually. Stephen Colbert maintains that it was politically motivated and that the Trump administration personally had his show taken off the air, something that comes across as a little bit self-aggrandizing and possibly a little bit unhinged as well. Now we're hearing a response from Jay Leno, not necessarily directly in reference to Stephen Colbert's show being canceled, but just kind of in the current state of the late night host in general. But before we get into this, make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss my latest videos. And if you can, click the like button and leave a comment because it really helps us out. So I got this article pulled up from The Hollywood Reporter with the headline, Jay Leno criticizes political late night host. Nobody wants to hear a lecture. The former Tonight Show host took aim at partisan late night shows in a recent interview. Why shoot for just half of the audience? And Jay Leno is obviously someone who knows a thing or two about late night comedy shows. He hosted the Tonight Show for nearly 2 decades, and he was so successful that the company didn't want to let him leave. So even when he was trying to retire, they kept trying to drag him back in with different shows. Jay Leno took aim at late night hosts whose political humor appeals to only half of their audience by making jokes targeting only one side of the ideological spectrum. And that's something that I think most people won't deny at this point, that a lot of these late night comedy shows are essentially just liberal outlets where they can just voice whatever they want to on those attacking the right side of the political spectrum. And if you're a fan of that sort of thing, that's fine. But Jay Leno is basically saying if you're doing that, then you're only going to be catering to half the audience. And if you're only catering to half the audience while producing a show that costs so much that you need to cater to the full audience, well, then it's really not sustainable in the long run. The 75-year-old former Tonight Show host who's made the comments during a recent interview with the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation. While the interview was taped at least 2 weeks ago, likely before CBS made its shock announcement that it was canceling the late show with Stephen Colbert on July 17th, the portion of the interview containing the late night criticism was posted on YouTube last week and has been making the rounds this weekend due to recent headlines. So it's not as if Jay Leno was just responding to the news of Stephen Colbert, where he's kind of like a hindsight's 2020, where he's saying like, oh yeah, he's losing his show because he's being too political. This is something that he was saying before the announcement was made, basically, that it's not sustainable for a lot of these shows to just be catering to one side of the audience. And then after he makes those statements within like a week or so, then we get the announcement that Stephen Colbert is going to be getting his show removed because it's not sustainable. So it really just seems like it's kind of obvious for most people. And we've noticed since the announcement for Stephen Colbert's show being canceled that a lot of these other late night hosts have been kind of rallying in his defense. And I think the reason why they're doing this is because they kind of see the writing on the wall themselves. Stephen Colbert, despite not actually having good ratings, was still had higher ratings than a lot of these other shows. And they're basically seeing like, well, if they can cancel him, then who's to say that they can't cancel us? And that's all I can really respond to. It's like, yeah, exactly. Who's to say that you won't be canceled in the future if you don't turn this ship around? David Trulio, the president and CEO of the foundation, kicked things off by noting to Leno that the jokes were equally balanced between mocking Democrats and Republicans. I got hate letters saying you and your Republican friends, and another saying I hope you and your Democrat buddies are happy over the same joke, Leno said. That's how you get a whole audience. Now you have to be content with half the audience because you have to give your opinion. Continued, Leno, Rodney Dangerfield and I were friends. I knew Rodney 40 years and have no idea if he was a Democrat or Republican. We never discussed politics. We just discussed jokes. I like to think that people come to a comedy show to get away from pressure of life. I love political humor. Don't get me wrong, but people wind up cozying too much to one side or the other. And I'm the same way, where it's like, I think everything can be made fun of and everything can be mocked. I don't think there's any sacred cow. And even if people say something that I think is offensive, as long as it's, I wouldn't necessarily say in good natured, but as long as they're doing it equally across the board, then to me, that's a little bit forgivable. But I do agree with what he's saying, how people want to go to a comedy show to kind of get away from this sort of thing and just to have fun with it one way or the other. They don't want to just be lectured to. And I know we see a lot of that in current day entertainment. And even when it's something that's trying to push an agenda that I personally agree with. If it feels like I'm just being lectured at, I'm not really that interested in it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have those type of things within the entertainment industry, whether it's a comedy show, whether it's a movie, TV show. You can have those products that are pushing a message, but the people creating them have to understand that the audience for that is going to be substantially smaller than if you're trying to appeal to a broader audience. And if you're just trying to appeal to more of a niche demographic, then you have to cater your budget accordingly. And if you don't do that, then you're going to find yourself losing financially. And while some studios might be willing to take the short-term hit to lose financially as long as it pushes their agenda, in the long run, they can't sustain that, and they have to make some changes in order to try to appeal to a wider audience. Leno concluded by saying, I don't think anybody wants to hear a lecture. Why shoot for just half an audience? Why not try to get the whole? I like to bring people into the big picture. I don't understand why you would alienate one particular group or just don't do it at all. I'm not saying you have to throw your support on one side, but just do what's funny. And that's the thing with a lot of these late night shows is they've long abandoned trying to be funny. And if you watch many of what they've been putting out lately, they've been going for what I would refer to and what many have referred to as clapter, not necessarily people laughing at your jokes, but just applauding along because they agree with what you're saying. Like you can get Stephen Colbert going out there and basically saying Trump did something stupid, and then people would just kind of applaud it. It's like, or he would say something stupid, like Trump did something stupid, but says it in a sarcastic manner while making a funny face. Then people applaud along. It's like, that's not funny. That's really just pandering to a demographic of clapping seals who will applaud anything that you say, so long as it's attacking the orange man or something like that. And while you can't appeal to that audience, you can't do it when you're employing 200 people and spending over $100 million a year on your production for your show. I mean, you could do that if you were just a small YouTuber, things like that, but that's not what they're doing. And that's why they ultimately had to cancel Stephen Colbert. And one thing that you can also take into consideration is just this. I saw this post coincidentally this morning talking about how Democrat support is at a 35-year low. And I usually don't dabble in politics on this channel, but I think it's kind of important for the sake of this, because I think this is where politics and pop culture kind of coincide, because you got one host here who's just making his whole show about politics, catering to a side that is actually experiencing a 35-year low in support. Not to mention, you can see just the overall viewership demographics of the people who watch a lot of these late night shows. And it's pretty obvious that according to this polling that came out in 2021, that the vast majority of the people who watch these shows are Democrats. And since Democrat support is at a 35-year low, well, that's not really spelling good tidings for these late night shows. And you can even just see the viewership trend over the years from some of the bigger late night shows, how it's been steadily declining. Yeah, they experience a little bit of a boost when it comes to presidential election years. I think they found, look at Stephen Colbert, for instance, he was down in 2016, but then when he found that he was catering to a specific demographic, going hard against Trump, then all of a sudden he leaned into that and found himself as the number one. But that was the number one in a declining audience because people were just getting tired of hearing that stuff over and over again. And this is just kind of a spiraling thing too, because they basically get audience captured. I think they're kind of ideologically aligned to it, but at the same time, they realize like, okay, I've been cultivating this audience that hates Republicans. And if I continue down, and if I change gears, or if I try to be a little bit more balanced, then the audience that I have is going to leave me. And I can't really like try to appeal to the other side because they have since long abandoned me. So I just kind of have to continue on with what I'm doing. If you want to see a course correction, you have to lower the budget for the production of your show and then try to do that course correction gradually over time. But that's really not what's happened with them. We're just going to I think we're going to see more likely than not a lot more of these shows going to get canceled unless something changes, and we just don't know what it is. One thing that I do find kind of interesting about all this is after Stephen Colbert's show got canceled, the company that produced that show also bought South Park and had the huge deal for them. And a lot of people are also thinking, myself included, that this is ultimately the reason why Stephen Colbert's show got canceled, because it was not profitable for them. Meanwhile, South Park is a profitable show that has a mass appeal. And even though they will go heavy into politics at times, I mean, their first show back was going heavy against Trump. I think a lot of that was just the show for the fact that, yes, you can have political humor. You can attack one side, but South Park is known for being a little bit more balanced, or at least they'll attack both sides of the political spectrum. So even if they can go hard against Trump in one episode, it's not going to lose a huge portion of their audience because people are a little bit more forgiving when you will be shown be willing to attack both sides of this. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you agree with Jay Leno that a lot of these late night shows should just try to attack both sides equally if they're going to be doing that, or try not to lecture their audience and just try to put on a funny show? Also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And if you can, click the like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.